So here's something that I noticed. So on my rev matching on downshift, I feel like I have to get used to it again. That might have something to do with the AFR settings though, based on the throttle position. This of course is just a standard tune for an Akro exhaust and an aftermarket air filter downloaded off of Dynojet's site. So I'm pretty sure it's going to need a little fine tuning here and there.
Welcome back, riders. So you can probably tell from the title of this video, we're going to be discussing baseline tuning for the Power Commander 5. What does baseline tuning mean? Well, when you initially install the Power Commander, you're going to grab a default fuel map from Dynojet's website. So that map may or may not be for your specific type of exhaust or your specific type of air filter. Sometimes, in my case especially, you're going to need to do some baseline adjustments to the fuel map, especially in those lower RPM, lower throttle position ranges. You probably remember from my video, I kept complaining about how snappy and weird feeling the throttle became once I put the Power Commander 5 on. I got really used to the 8% fuel that the booster plug put on, and that really smoothed out that acceleration curve. At first I thought maybe it's me, but then I realized riding it around for a few more days that that wasn't the case. I went on a ride last Sunday and I was kind of in bumper to bumper traffic. We were doing on average between 20 to say 35 miles per hour. I was fluctuating between third gear, second gear, sometimes fourth gear, but mainly around third and second. The bike started to feel like it was bogging out. It would sputter along, it wasn't great. Now wide open throttle was amazing, but those lower RPM ranges, I don't know, something just wasn't right. Long story short, I got home and I broke out the documents. The Power Commander 5 documents, that is. So what did I discover? I discovered on the back page of the installation guide, a fuel map. So what does this fuel map mean? So basically, this fuel map highlights a gray area where you need to do some baseline tuning. So what is that baseline tuning in this gray area? It's basically an 8% fuel increase. So what we're going to do today is we're going to open up the Power Commander on the computer, we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to do some adjustments. In addition to the fuel map, the other thing we're going to do today, which I want to show you, is how to calibrate the throttle position sensor. That's something that's really important too. Now I did do that before I took it out on my ride. I just didn't show it on camera, but I want to show you guys how to do that today. So let's kick it around, open up the laptop, and let's get to the bike. Okay, so the first thing you should do is open up the user guide. That's something that honestly, I didn't really look at. I just skimmed through it and assumed that the tune I downloaded off of Dynojet was actually going to be correct. Turns out there is some tweaking you have to do to it. So let's jump down to the next section, page 2. So the first thing we're going to want to do is a throttle calibration. So while the tune may have some baseline settings in it, you still need to calibrate your throttle. So this is the first step that we're going to need to do, is follow these instructions and calibrate the throttle. So we've got the stock Akro tune loaded in on the Power Commander by default. That we did earlier, but now we need to calibrate the throttle position. So the first thing we're going to do is come under the Power Commander tools, go to calibrate, and click throttle position. That's going to open up the throttle calibration tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit reset. Then we're going to go over to the bike and we're going to fire it up and go wide open throttle for just a few seconds. Once we've done that, we just hit OK, and our throttle position sensor is calibrated. So that's great and all, but let's take a look at this map. If you noticed in the dark gray area here that I have highlighted, notice all of these zeros. These zeros basically mean that there's no additional fuel being added to the bike from a 0 to a 50 throttle position and all the way up to 7,750 RPMs. Nothing at all.
This is terrible. We want this to add some fuel. We want to run richer because we know these Yamahas are leaned out from the factory. So right now, the only adjustment that we're getting is when we get closer to wide open throttle, the 60% to 100% throttle. We can see varying adjustments from there. Now, I do want to point out that these higher numbers over here and even down here, when you're looking at above, 7750, 7250, these are settings that you're going to have to get done on a dyno because obviously the bike needs to be in full motion in order to be able to tune those things correctly. However, one thing I want to take care of is that bogging, that sputtering at low RPMs that I was experiencing on my longer ride a couple days after I did my first video. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some fuel. So we're going to add about 8% fuel to some specific areas. We're going to come and basically add 8% fuel to everything from 0 to 50% all the way up to 4750. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some additional fuel in that almost that same region, but we're going to take it up to about 6,000 RPMs, but we're going to go all the way out to the pit throttle position here. Just like that. Now, same thing, we're going to type 8, and that's going to add 8% to that region. And lastly, we just want to hit these top numbers from about 6250 to about 7250. We're going to go ahead and highlight all of these. And again, we're going to hit 8. So that's going to get rid of a lot of the bogging and it's going to richen it up about 8% more fuel in this range. I'm really hoping this is going to help out with some of that sputtering, between that 0 to 50% throttle range, under load, bumper to bumper traffic, that sort of thing. We really want to try and get rid of that issue. So once we've made those mods, we're going to go ahead and hit send map. We've now sent this map with the calibrated throttle back to the bike. So that's it. We now have an 8% richer fuel mixture up to 7250 and between a 0 and 50% throttle position. Hopefully that's going to get rid of some of the sputtering. But the only way we're going to find out is to actually take this bike out and ride it. So let's go ahead and do that.
And we're back at a red light. So let's see how the throttle is on this thing. I'm really hoping this smooths out the throttle because the curve was definitely different than when I had the booster plug in. Yeah, it feels a lot smoother. So right after we did the install, we went for a ride. I definitely felt like the throttle was back to stock. And after experiencing how the booster plug smoothed everything out, it was a bit frustrating. I feel like we've got that smooth torque curve back. Run this, baby. Now I just want to say wide open throttle is still pretty much the same as it was from that first test ride. I haven't changed any of those fuel map settings. I'm hoping those will get optimized when I take this into my local speed shop to get it dynoed. I'm 2 weeks out before that's going to happen because they are just book solid. So let's take this baby up on the highway and see if we notice a difference between the Power Commander on street versus the Power Commander on highway at higher speeds. Yeah, wide open throttle feels really good. I'm in 6th gear, just cruising at about 70 miles per hour. And when I hit that gas, I definitely feel a difference. And I hate to keep repeating myself, but this ride is no substitute for getting a dyno test. You really want to see what your power gains are, you got to put it on a dyno. I'm just giving you guys feedback on what it feels like. Once we get that dyno report back, we'll definitely know where the gains were. So another thing that felt different was the downshifting and the rev matching. So let's see how we do on this one. Oh yeah, it seems like it's back. Yeah, the rev matching is a lot easier. It's kind of back to how it was. Woo. Yeah, that's nice. All right, so another thing that was happening, and let's test this out. So if I was going about 25, 30 miles an hour, let's get into third gear because I had to be in lower RPMs. So when I was going in third gear, when I was going about, I don't know, between 20 and 30 miles an hour, the throttle was really bogging out. It was like sputtering. That 8% definitely has made the difference. That 8% has brought everything back to normal. Man, it's amazing what happens when you read directions, right?
So that was an awesome ride. So what did I notice? That smooth, consistent throttle curve is definitely back. I even let my friends ride the bike and they commented on how incredibly smooth the throttle was. The other thing that the Power Commander had originally brought back was that really hard engine braking. The booster plug had smoothed that out, but it seemed to have come back after the install of the PCV. That's no longer the case. I'm not thrown forward anymore like you are with the stock setting. Wide open throttle is still great, but then again, there was never really a problem with it. But that 8% fuel mixture, between 0 and 5,000 RPMs, no more bogging, low gear, no problem, downshifting, no problem, feathering the clutch in second with low throttle, no bogging out, no nothing. Everything just generally seems to be better with that 8% fuel increase. So that's all I got for this video today. I'll definitely be taking the bike out again, and I'll report back in a moto vlog how things are going with this baseline tune. Definitely check out my PCB install video if you're thinking about getting a Power Commander. It'll kind of give you a rough idea of what you're in for. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you like this channel. I got a lot more videos coming. We got parts in the mail as we speak. Some really cool mods coming down the road. Thanks for watching. Ride safe. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.